everybody, and welcome to today's presentation. I am here with Julianne Wutke. She is a health coach, and she and I met probably about 3 months ago on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, and we had some fascinating discussions about food and nutrition. So I invited her to join me today so that she can share her knowledge. She offers functional help in the area of nutrition, emotional eating, and a lot of us do that at one time or another, fitness, and stress management. What she offers is not a quick fix, but it's a sustainable change that you can make in your life for the rest of your life. And if you're joining us live and you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box and we will address those. And if you're not joining us live, please post your questions in the comments section and we'll do our best to answer those questions as well. So welcome, Julianne. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
Yeah, it is. I'm so glad to have you here to help share your breadth of knowledge with our audience. And today we're going to talk about what we believe about food, right?
hmm Oh, that's a biggie.
Yeah. So before we dive into that, so you offer what you call functional help in the area of nutrition. Could you explain what that means?
Yeah, well, basically, the term is used pretty frequently nowadays in the areas of health and wellness. And the way I think about functional help is not just, oh, here's a problem, what kind of a band aid can I put on it, but really what is causing the problem. So if someone is tired or overweight that can't seem to do much about either of those things, what is behind that? So, in other words, not just a quick fix solution, but actually finding out what's underneath that, what is causing that. And it tends to clear up a lot of other things in your life as well.
Excellent, excellent. So that's exactly how my practice functions as well. When someone comes to me with a physical condition, we look at the underlying issue where quite often medical science hands us a pharmaceutical. So
Mm.
if you were overweight or struggling with emotional eating, you might go to your doctor and be handed a pharmaceutical. And so you and I work a little bit differently than that, right?
hmm
We try to get to the
Yeah. Oh, very much so.
So for anyone who did not understand the term functional, now you know what that means. So I think a lot of people are confused about food. And so what you told me is it's usually what we don't know or misunderstand about food that hurts us much more than what we know. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Oh, most definitely. Most of us learn what we think we understand about food from an early age. Maybe it's something our parents told us, or grandparents, any caregivers. Maybe something we heard. Maybe something we read on the back of a cereal box, or some other packaging, or that we saw in a television ad. Builds bodies. 8 ways, or so. I mean, I remember all the jingles and all that coming from television ads and then print advertising. It was kind of like there's a lot of misinformation in those kinds of messages and a lot of misunderstanding that it creates. And if you don't understand what's keeping you fat, for example, how can you ever hope to do much about it? So, does that help at all?
Yes, yes, it does. And so I remember so many of those jingles as well. The first one that came to my mind is Frosted Flakes, Kellogg's Frosted Flakes
hmm
with Tony the Tiger.
hmm
They're great, right?
hmm
Loaded with sugar.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, um, what other things, what other examples could you give us that we don't know about food or that we misunderstand about food?
Mm. Well, one really big one that comes to mind is I think it was uh, I actually made a list based on all of my years of just talking to clients, and it's so interesting to me things that they think they understand about food that are not necessarily true, but they just didn't know what they didn't know. And as soon as we kind of got that uncovered and were able to clarify a few things for them, usually everything changes. So anyway, I think it right near the top would be um, a biggie would be that fat makes you fat. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, fat was pretty much all fats are put together in one lump, definition, and there was no, differentiation between fat that you cut off of your steak, or maybe a fat that is in an avocado. It's like all fats are all bad. And now, of course, I think hopefully most people know that that's just not the case. But if you don't know that, or you don't understand uh, what fats really to stay away from, you're just not going to be helping yourself, and you're not going to understand what probably would need to stop eating and what you need to eat more of to be healthier. So that's a big one. Fat makes you fat.
Yeah,
Not
and
necessarily true.
we're going to talk about that a little bit
Yeah.
more in a few minutes. But I remember growing up, uh, we ate a lot of fat. Okay, I remember the can of bacon grease that sat next to the stove that mom
Mhm.
would cook with, yet we weren't fat, you
Mhm.
know. Um, but I think, and you tell me if this is true, I think that our food, the how our food is processed has changed so much that it has completely thrown our bodies out of whack.
Mhm.
I am of Italian descent. I grew up on that good Mediterranean diet where you had your protein, your starch, and your deep leafy green,
Mhm.
salads almost every single night with, vinegar and olive oil, which is a healthy fat, right? And
Mhm.
lots of garlic, which is good for the immune system.
Mhm.
But, we consumed a lot of fat, yet we were not fat,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the fact that most of the well, I don't know if that's most, but I would say quite a bit of the food that most Americans consume, the fact that it is packaged or processed, how much of what we eat during the course of a day, especially if we're busy parents or professionals, how much of what we eat is actually just whole food, um, and how much is out of a package or it's been, processed to the point of all the fiber taken out, and what you're left with is something that's just not the way it was in its original form, and that's actually hurting people a lot. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So over the years, as you were mentioning before, it's all the messages that we
Mhm.
receive. So over the years, the messages have changed repeatedly. Even, the food pyramid that
Mm,
that the
mhm,
FDA puts out has changed. It's still wrong in my opinion. Many of us say it still needs to be inverted, right?
mhm.
But these messages have changed over and over again, and it's nearly impossible to eat like your parents ate or your grandparents ate, because those foods, the purity of those foods is just no longer available. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it's not quite the same. Well, in our grandparents' day, uh, no one talked about organic food versus conventional food. It was mostly organic. I mean,
Exactly.
that's just what it was called food. That's all. It was just
Exactly.
called food.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so your grandmother might go down to the local butcher store and buy a chicken that had been
Hmm.
freshly butchered,
Hmm.
and
And that had been pasture raised. now,
Right.
and not
Right.
fed with any horrible ingredients or injected with anything. And nowadays we have to actually pay a lot more money for that. Why is that? To get that kind of quality at a market. It just kind of like doesn't seem quite right. But we'll get around to that in a second if we want to continue on with that stream.
Okay, so I'm going
But
to get I kind of digressed there, so I'm going to get back to our notes here. Um, um, so this is just such a correct statement. I don't really even know what to say about it. But when we don't understand what it is that's making us fat, tired, or miserable, it's very likely that we will stay that way. That makes perfect sense to me.
mhm,
What you do is you help people break down. There's these symptoms of being fat, tired, and not feeling well, feeling miserable, right? Feeling
mhm,
unhappy. Um,
mhm,
so, and um, most people who know me and follow my channel know that my specialty is chronic illness, and that's based on my own personal experience of having been chronically ill for 10 years. So yeah, if you don't address these issues, it's going to affect your health.
mhm,
And if you continue to ignore those issues, it's going to get worse and worse
mhm,
until the body signals us, and if we don't listen to that signaling, then it just gets louder and louder.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And people wonder why, not only that they might feel discomfort or feel the way they do, but a lot of us, when we kind of reach our 50s or whatever, middle age, time of life we consider to be that. But mostly, I think it's a lot of us women. By the time we reach our 50s, we usually have a laundry list of things that we wanted we'd like to change about our health, and uh, that's huge. And sometimes people go for the quick fix instead, or the go pay somebody a lot of money for some surgeries or some procedures. And it's really much simpler than that. And most of the changes that can make improvements in our lives are things that we can just do
Right.
ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But we are a nation addicted to the quick fix,
Hmm.
and so many try to go that route. And oftentimes, let's say you decide to go for liposuction. I have known people who go for liposuction, and guess what? It comes back. Okay.
Yeah.
So unless that's something you want to have done over and over again, it's probably better for your health in general that you address the underlying issue. And
Hmm.
especially because we know that um, cortisol and adrenaline love fat. So if you're
Hmm.
carrying a lot of weight, there is cortisol and adrenaline sitting around in there,
Hmm.
and that's not good for your health at all.
Hmm. Oh, there's a big connection between fat storage and those two hormones. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we could get to that. I don't know if you want to talk about that. I don't know if we're diverging yet.
Yeah, well, you tell me if you want to talk about that now. That would be perfect, because
Well,
we also
yeah.
know that excessive weight can be a precursor for cancers.
Hmm.
So it's an important topic. So yeah, if you want to address that, I hand you the floor.
Well, a lot of it has to do with insulin resistance and inflammation. Inflammation is actually really one of the overarching issues that can create chronic conditions. And inflammation can be caused by a lot of different things, mostly having to do with just people not taking care of their basic nutrition, movement, quality sleep, things of that nature. It's really the basics that help keep us very healthy, but some people just don't really know what those are. And I know one of my favorite things to speak on is overconsumption of sugar and getting on that blood sugar roller coaster. Also stress. So we mentioned cortisol, and I'll just say this about that, that here's a quick tip. Don't eat when you're stressed. That is not so basically, if we are under stress, even if it seems like it's low level stress, let's say busy day at the office, busy day at the house, or, and I used to do this. Gosh, I only have 5 minutes to wolf down my lunch, and I'm doing it while I'm reading emails or something crazy, because this is what people still do. Just wolf it down. They think it doesn't make any difference. Well, if we're feeling stress and we're trying to eat, the digestion just really isn't happening. We're not chewing properly. When we are not in a relaxed state, our digestion pretty much wants to shut off. And a lot of that energy that gets into our bloodstream, manages eventually to get into our bloodstream, just basically becomes stored as fat because it is not being fully digested or used by the system. So, yeah, so stress, over amount of stress can cause cortisol, too much cortisol in the system, a bit of adrenaline, especially if it's a high stress situation. And those two chemicals, pretty much one of the things they kind of shut down is our digestion. And that can lead to a lot of people who have issues with fat around their midsections, especially those of us in middle age. That is one of the main reasons that that's happening, is that it's just um, a lot of stress has to do with that. So that's just a huge connection. And inflammation can be, coming from a lot of different sources. But I want to just address that thing about the cortisol. And please do not eat when you're stressed out. That is a huge mistake. Another thing I'll just touch on it real quickly here, is that blood sugar roller coaster. Some people wonder why they feel kind of a lack of energy in the middle of the afternoon. Well, they probably have been spiking their blood sugar
Mhm.
all day long, but didn't even realize it. So that's another thing too. Run, 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 eat something that goes right into your bloodstream, like stop off at the coffee shop and get your latte and with sugary latte and your muffin. Boom, up goes the blood sugar, and then the higher it goes, the farther it falls. You get that crash mid morning. You reach for another cup of coffee, maybe, or something else. Boom, up and down, and then lunch rolls around. Maybe you're eating a slice of pizza or something again that gets into your blood sugar a little too fast. It's not a whole food. Spikes up, falls down by mid-afternoon, and it just kind of continues this way. That can create a lot of problems. It can create inflammation and insulin resistance, which is a precursor, of course, to diabetes and a lot of other diseases. So, but people just don't. They don't realize that this is what they're actually doing to themselves. I know I used to do it all the time. I can't even tell you. And then I gradually started figuring out what was making me feel better. So, yeah.
So you and I spoke prior to going live. I talked to you just briefly about the fact that I grew up on organic farm. So my father didn't farm for a living, but he grew our food and he raised our meat. So pretty much everything that I ate was pure. And so you had mentioned earlier that most of what we know about food, we've been taught either by our parents or from the media. When eventually I had to move away from the farm and I had to go to the store like everyone else and buy my food. And so that's why I was saying earlier, uh, you know, the environment that your grandparents had or my parents had, I don't have the ability to reproduce that today. So I have to be very careful about what I pick and choose when I'm at the supermarket. And when right prior to my health collapsing on me, I was working in Manhattan. I lived in New Jersey and I was working in Manhattan. I had a 13-hour day. And, on the way home, I'd stop for Chinese or I was eating boxed, frozen I don't want to name any brands,
I
but
know.
you all know those, quick
We know what you're
meal,
talking
pop
about.
in the microwave, and in 5 minutes you've got dinner. And I'll tell you what, once I recovered, I cannot stand the smell. Like if I'm in an office, a shared office space, and someone has one of those meals in the microwave, it just smells so horrible to me. Um, once I got my health straightened out, and some of that had to do with dietary changes. I gave up sugar. You mentioned sugar earlier. So not
Hmm.
that I was a big sugar freak, but I put sugar in my coffee, and I would eat ice cream or birthday cake. And I gave up sugar completely. And so now, even now, 20 years later, sweet things just taste overwhelmingly sweet to me. So once you get off the sugar, it's amazing how your
Yeah.
taste buds shift. Um, so, and you also talk about in this write up that you sent me prior to our meeting here today, how we can actually reverse the sign of that, or we can prevent premature aging, is what you have here,
Hmm.
and can keep ourselves fit and more healthy. Could you
Hmm.
address that a little bit?
Oh yeah, and again, that's definitely that some. I mean, people, at least in this country alone, spend so much money on what's known as the anti-aging products. Um, I know I certainly am concerned about that. We buy, anything from cosmetics to pills to treatments because we're concerned about aging. And most of the time, unfortunately, people are concerned about how they think they need to look on the outside. And really, it's an inside out job. So it comes down to the more foundational aspects of getting the highest quality nutrition that we can get. And that might include a bit of supplementation.
Mhm.
There are particular things that like our mitochondria, as we age, change as well. They don't function like they used to. And there are supplementation that we can utilize to kind of boost that, but most of that is really taking place in the quality of the food that we're eating, and the avoiding toxins in our environment and things of that nature to really give our body the best chance it has. Even skin conditions can 100% clear up. A lot of people are eating foods that they don't even realize they have maybe a slight allergy to, or foods that trigger them in some way, and it can I mean, it can you can see it on your skin. You can certainly feel it in your body. It can come out on your hair. I mean, so basically, a lot of what we look like on the outside has a great deal to do with how we're treating ourselves on the inside.
Mhm.
Um, and not just nutrition. I mean, it's basically managing your stress. Everyone's got stress, can't avoid it. We're alive. But it's the way we handle the stress that comes up in our lives. Sleep is extremely important. Proper hydration, just making sure that we're hydrated throughout the day. All of these things really go to um, vibrant aging. I mean, we're all going to get older, and that's okay, but we don't want our lifespan to exceed our health span. And generally speaking, the healthier we are, the better we're going to look, and certainly the better we're going to feel. So, like I said, it's really an inside out job. I mean, yeah, you can go buy the creams and whatever, that's fine. But, it's not going to mean a whole lot if you're not taking care of your body and your mind. So, I don't
So
know,
I
does that help at all?
Yeah, I love that. I want to reiterate that we don't want our lifespan to exceed our health span.
Hmm.
Yeah, none of us wants to be old and decrepit. Okay. We want to be as happy and healthy and strong and vibrant as we go into those later years. We'll just say it that way. Yeah.
Hmm.
And you mentioned stress, which is a big deal in my practice because we know stress causes illness. Stress also accelerates the aging process. So when
Hmm.
I'm doing workshops and I'm talking to groups of people and I'm explaining to them how to manage their emotions and explaining about how to reverse the aging process, boy, that gets their attention. You know, everybody wants to know that. And so the
The ears
simple
perk
answer,
up, right?
yeah. And so the simple answer is to manage your stress. Now, you said something earlier, and then we'll get into these facts that, or the common beliefs that we want to explore. But you mentioned earlier twice, don't eat when you're stressed. Okay, so let's explore that. Can we poke some holes in that, please?
Sure.
First, first of all, how do we know we're eating because we're stressed? How do we identify that? Could you give us some tips?
Well, a lot of it has to do with you just have to be aware of your stresses. And most people, there's a little bit of a misconception. Some people think that stress is just when it's acute. Like if somebody slams their brakes on in front of you in traffic, whew, that's an acute, you feel the adrenaline, right? But actually the most common form of stress and one of the most damaging nowadays is are the micro stressors. Like getting alerts on your phone all the time, and um, just little things. Can't find your keys. Someone did this. Someone did that. The unfriendly email you just got from your manager or whatever it is. All of these little things are just like little micro stressors that can occur to us, and if we don't intentionally take time, I'm sure this is something you talk about too with your clients. If we don't intentionally take time to de-stress, and it can be as simple as stop for a few minutes and breathe deeply. I mean, that's a huge thing. You can do that in the car. You can do that anywhere you are. Just the deep breathing practice, and it immediately reduces your stress. It's really good. It's a good little tool in the toolbox. But yeah, in terms of how do you know when we're stressed? Is that was the question? How do we know
Yeah,
that we're
because I
stressed?
think
Or
I think most people in society today are so accustomed to that fast pace and, let me throw, I'm hungry, let me throw some food at it, that they don't
Mhm.
even realize that they're stress eating.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I would just say this: a super, super, and this is something that a colleague of mine was able to help a busy executive with not long ago. She was telling me that um, if he just started doing one little thing a day, and that was just before lunch, which was usually at his desk working,
Mhm.
just before lunch, he did a kind of a breathing practice where he just took, started off with maybe 2 minutes and worked it eventually up to five and then 10. Just took a few moments to do the deep breathing and relax and calm himself down. And then he was able to eat his lunch, and he didn't wolf it down. He actually didn't do anything else but just eat lunch. Um, First, it was a few minutes, then it was like five, then 10. So, relaxation, eating mindfully and slowly. And I guess he was having a lot of gastrointestinal issues, GERD, that kind of thing. And almost immediately, his symptoms were reduced greatly just for that one little practice around lunchtime. So I would say that for most of us, I would think it's safe to just assume that you are having a certain amount of stress. If you drive, if you've got family, if you're working, almost anything can create stress. And just assume that you've got it. And it's important just to be mindful about reducing it. I mean, it's that simple. You don't sometimes you're not aware when you've got it, However, you really know when you're more relaxed because that's you can get in touch with that. So I would just say, being mindful and intentional and practice that at different points during the day. Your mind functions better when you do that because when we're stressed, we really don't think clearly most of the time.
Correct.
It's just that simple. So,
Correct. Yeah.
yeah.
So as a psyche practitioner, we talk about integrating the left and right hemispheres because most of us are left or right brain dominant. So there's some
Hmm.
postures that we can sit in to bring the left and right hemispheres into sync. And when we do that, we're calmer and we
Hmm.
make better decisions. And, life is just flows better. So I love
Hmm.
all of that. Breathing is so easy and it doesn't cost anything.
Mm-mm.
And
Yeah.
it can calm you right down. So that
Yeah.
was great. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into some of these beliefs. Number one, fat makes you fat.
Well, we pretty much already talked about that. Yeah, it's again, this is just what I remember being true when I was a kid. Oh, if it's fat, it makes you fat. And no idea, we had no idea. So um, basically, we need fat to be alive. I mean, now this is something that I think a lot of people are able to understand a little bit more. And not all fat is the same. That's for sure. Even all animal fat is not the same. It really depends on where the animal and how the animal was raised. Um, really, if we don't have fat, it's just hard to even function. Actually, using the healthy fat in our diets on a daily basis can help us feel more uh, less hungry, and it can avoid. It's a good way to avoid sugar cravings. A lot of people don't know that. So I would say the fats to really watch out for right off the top would be um, those yellow bottled oils that a lot of people have in their kitchen pantries. All of that processed vegetable oil. um, I would just encourage people to please find a substitute or not use that anymore. And that's exactly the kinds of things that are found in most packaged foods. I mean, right now, the big kerfuffle about hydrogenated, fats. Well, now you don't really see that in packaged foods anymore so much. However, there are plenty of other fats that are not labeled as such that are in there in packaged foods. You can probably tell there's a kind of a theme here, avoiding packaged foods whenever you can. So basically, the kind of fats that are considered healthy that we actually need in our bodies would be things like the fat that is naturally occurring in avocados, um, coconuts, a derivative of coconut oil, which is MCT or medium chain triglyceride oil. You can usually get that at a health food store or online. Um, let's see what else. In raw and unprocessed nuts and seeds, they usually contain a lot of healthy fats. Also, wild caught fish, a lot of the cold water fish, um, those contain a lot of wonderful, fats that are healthy for you. Flaxseed, chia seeds, things of that nature. There's a whole list of ways we can get our healthy fats in. And they tend to not make you fat.
And one that I'm going to mention because I use it nearly every day, and that is olive oil,
Yep.
cold pressed olive oil.
How did
So
I miss that one? It's one of
I
my
don't know.
things. I hit avocado. Went right to
Yeah, I
coconut.
was waiting for you to
I should
say
have
it. Yeah.
stopped at olive.
Yeah, because I've got all of those in my cabinet, and I do use canola oil, and you know what I use it for? I use it in a natural based insecticide that I
Oh,
spray on my plants.
that is a very good use for something that
Yeah,
humans
so
should
you
not
will
consume.
find one of those yellow oils. It's not in my pantry; it's in my garage because
Uh-huh.
I use that. Yeah, in a natural, you know. solution that I spray on the plants
Hmm.
help with insect control. So,
I have
so
to say though that up until just not that long ago, I don't know how many years it was, I was using that yellow processed oil in baking. A lot of people still do. They
yeah,
just don't. I know my mother always did. That was, no one knew. You know, like I said, we
yeah.
didn't know what we didn't know. So,
No, we didn't know what we didn't know. That's exactly right. And we learn as we go. And science is ever evolving. And so what we know today will be outdated
mhm.
100 years from now. Okay, let's move on to number two.
Okay.
Calories are the most important factor for weight loss.
Ah, calories. Our old friends. You know, when I was a kid, I actually used to have one of those little handy books, like the Dell book of, quick reference for calories, so I could like plan my whole day. Did it work? No, because not all calories are not created equal. I mean, in a very extreme example, let's just say that, oh, I don't know, 500 calories worth of gummy bears, very different from, say, 500 calories of broccoli, right? Food is information that your body uses. And the information that's coming from a highly sugary processed source is so different from high quality, the dense nutrition that's found in a whole food. And this is so important to remember. So, calories factor, because it's basically just but we're not machines. That's the whole thing. It's like if you think that, oh, I used to think it was just a math problem, calories in, calories out. And I mean, how many of us still have the apps on our phone that tell us, oh, so you ingested X calories today and you burned X calories. Therefore, you know, it's like, maybe not,
Yeah.
it's not really, like I said, we're not machines. It's a little more complicated than that. But a lot of us still do things like that. It's very tempting. And it's not helpful, and it's not necessary. That's the important thing. I used to feel like, just to feel like I was in control, I needed to account for all of my calories during the day. And then after I started learning more and getting better guidance and mentorship, I just abandoned that whole idea. And I used to be 45 pounds heavier just how many years ago? I don't even know how many years ago, not that long ago. And I did not drop it by counting a calorie, not a single calorie. It was really about changing everything else in my quality of food. It's about the quality of what we eat and the
Yeah.
nutrition, and of course everything else that we're doing. It's all connected. Anyway,
Yeah.
calories are a factor. Are they the most important thing? No.
I love that example, 500 calories of gummy bears as compared to 500 calories of broccoli. I got this picture of, do you know how much broccoli it would take? 500 calories of broccoli.
I mean, you could just make it a little bit more even match and say 500 calories of gummy bears versus 500 calorie serving of whole, unroasted almonds or something like
Yeah.
that. That's a
Yeah.
little bit more of a fair comparison,
Yeah.
but
I
still,
just
those are
got
not.
I
Yeah.
just got this visual of this huge thing of broccoli.
Well, that's another thing
Sure.
about whole food is that you do have to. I mean, that's one thing that's so great about making sure we have all of our fresh produce, our especially our vegetables, is that they're very filling, they're very nutrient
Yes, they
dense,
are. Yes.
naturally low in calories. So um, and really they're just a great all around thing to keep in mind with every meal. So.
Let me tell you, when I was recouping my health, I ate a lot of broccoli. So, okay. So let's move on to number three. How about that? All
Mhm.
right. So number three is if a food was harmful, then they would not be able to sell it in the grocery store. If a food is harmful, they would not be able
Mhm.
to sell it in the grocery store.
Well, do you remember a time? throughout our even our lifetimes when certain foods, certain additives, I should say, all of a sudden, boom, get yanked from foods. So what's a good example? Saccharin, right?
Hmm.
Any sweetener that had cyclamates because they found out that was a carcinogen, right? Hydrogenated fats, they found out that was highly inflammatory and not good. Like, what's another example? Red dye number two. Remember that one?
Oh my gosh, no more red M&Ms, right? I remember that.
But it, yeah, but so these types of things, it kind of so before they got yanked from the foods, the processed foods, I mean, we were just happily consuming them, right? I mean, these carcinogens, pretty much, or things that created inflammation in our bodies, just because we didn't know. So to think that just because a grocery store is offering something, um, and it's not considered a poison, it would just be naive. It means it's okay to eat. That's just, it's a little naive when you think about it. I think the key is when you're choosing. I know sometimes people, and I used to do this all the time too. We just want something that's fast, cheap, and easy, especially if we're just got like no bandwidth left to make dinner. We're in the grocery store, and then our prayers are answered because something comes in a package and the marketing messages are saying all the right things. Maybe it's low fat or contains no whatever it is. And so we buy it, and uh, it- although the ingredients label, we really can't even pronounce most of what's there, and
Mhm.
we don't know what it is. And yet, this is what we're feeding ourselves or our families. So it's important for people to get a little more educated about that. And if you ever wonder if you should be buying a packaged food, and you can't pronounce most of what's on the label, and there are quite a few ingredients, my advice would be just to set it down. I mean, better just to choose the rotisserie chicken than the packaged dinner, you know.
Mhm.
So, or something else, even though, you know, that was seemed to be more convenient. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And it's so I was working with a client who said to me, "Why am I so addicted to carbs?" And I said, "Well, let's find out." Now, she was the mother of two, and she had a good career, but she had a husband on disability. So, feeding two children and a husband on disability income, I'm sure there were budget concerns. And so
Mhm.
I picked up my cell phone and I said, let's breeze through the sale circular and let's see what's on special this week.
Mhm.
Carb, packaged, carb, packaged, carb.
Mhm.
And we're scrolling through, and she's starting to get it because these foods, not only are they quick, but they're affordable. Okay, so for a busy mom with a full-time job with two kids and a husband, they're affordable. We get to the very end, and her eyes got real big, and she went, oh, blueberries. So on that long list of processed foods at the very bottom, some blueberries were on sale. And
Mhm.
so you know, I would encourage people to understand it's not your fault,
Mhm.
but as Maya Angelou used to say, now that you know better, you do better, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, they're really pulling you in to those foods.
Mhm.
So be aware.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, this one I love. I just can't eat and drink the way I used to when I was younger. Something must be wrong with me.
Oh, I know that was true for me. I don't even know what I was doing back in my teens and 20s. Frankly, it was kind of a blur, but it wasn't good. Yeah, so this is something that's a kind of a common experience among people I've talked to. And a lot of it has to do with our bodies are just changing. I mean, that's just the way it goes. I'm not going to say it's a negative thing, because truly, when we're younger, we're probably doing a lot of things like I know I did. Um, a lot of the things that we're eating, a lot of the habits that we have, things that we're putting into our bodies that we probably shouldn't, overindulging in, that sort of thing. We're just able, our bodies aren't, they're just able to recover a little bit faster
Mhm.
than when we get older. It's almost like when you get older, you realize just how much those types of things are affecting you. Like when you get older, you realize, oh, I really can't pull an all nighter without consequences. Oh, I really can have too much coffee or too much sugar because it really, or I can have too much alcohol because the next day I'm not functioning very well.
Right.
And yet in college, we might have done, it might have felt a little different, you know. So yes, we're changing, but this is good because this is really the good news. It's like our bodies are telling us, hey, wake up. you can't you can't do these bad behaviors anymore. We need to actually pay attention to what's going on here. And so in a way, it's a good thing. Yes, we should be resilient. We want to be resilient enough so that um, every once in a while, if we kind of deviate from our healthy eating habits or what have you, it's not going to sink our boat. You know, we're not going to be waking up the next day going, "Oh my gosh, what did I do?" You know, the whole thing is just remembering it's what we do consistently over time that really makes the difference. And then, like over the holidays, I had a lot of clients who were so concerned and worried because in the past, they would approach the holidays like, I know I'm going to gain 10 pounds and then I'll have to do some terrible militant kind of exercise to get rid of it, you know. And now that they've know more and they've learned more, they've changed their habits, they have better practices, they feel much more confident just going about their lives because they know if they want to, they can eat a cookie at a party. It's not going to kill them,
Right.
but they're choosing to do that. They don't have a sugar addiction anymore, or they don't have a craving for something like that. It's just, oh, okay. You know, they're more in touch with, you know, what feels good to them. So, and also if you start feeling really, really good, uh, you don't want to go back.
Right. Right. And life is short and life is to be enjoyed. So you should be able
Mhm.
to have that cookie. Uh, I mean, the holidays are just, again, my culture, Italian, it's all about food on the holidays.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't want to deny myself that. So,
Mm-mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Okay. Um, okay. Oh, in order to lose weight, I need to suffer and deprive myself on a diet. Then after that, I can easily keep it off.
Mm. Now, how many people out there are thinking, yeah, that's right. That's what I used to think. I thought, well, I have this short time of feeling awful, like I'm a prisoner of a program or something. But once I get to a certain point, I'll be fine. I can just cruise. So depriving yourself and doing something really different for a short period of time is really the worst way to make permanent changes in your life, especially your health and fitness. So you really want to focus on s- taking it one step at a time. So if you're on a program that just feels like you're suffering and deprived, first of all, you probably might quit. Secondly, even if you reach your goal, that's awesome. But what did you learn? Did you learn anything about how to have better habits so history doesn't repeat itself? Even people, I mean, I know at least two people who've had that gastric bypass surgery and they had success, lost the weight, but they didn't change their habits. So I wasn't even aware of this, but a lot of people who've had those kinds of things, this is just one example about addressing habits, um, is that sometimes people will gain it back. Not all of it, maybe, but some of it. So it's like, well, if you don't take it one step at a time and change what got you and understand what got you into that situation in the first place, no diet or program is going to help you really make it last in the future.
Right.
So,
Right. So what we're striving for is permanent lifestyle changes. Yes.
Sustainable. Yeah.
Sustainable. Perfect
I
word.
mean, yeah, our weight's always going to do this throughout our lives. That's okay.
Sure.
That's what I mean. Yeah, we're not like
Sure.
again, we're not machines.
Sure. If you go on vacation or you go on that cruise, chances are you're going to gain a few pounds. And, personally, I don't have a problem with that because, as I mentioned earlier, life is to be enjoyed, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right, and then if you have the habits that keep you healthy on a regular basis, you just resume. That's all. We took a break. Now we're going
Mhm.
to resume.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it works.
Okay. We have one more here. I'm afraid that if I reach my goal weight, I won't be able to have my favorite foods anymore.
This is something I used to believe, and I really feel like, subconsciously, it was kind of something that was holding me back from the finish line, if you will. I mean, I used to put myself on programs, and at a certain point, I kind of self sabotage. And I think a lot of it had to do with, oh my gosh, you know what? If I get down to that weight, then I'm just going to be suffering all the time and
Mhm.
only eating rabbit food,
Mhm. Yeah.
or something.
Well,
I
you'll
thought, oh
never
no,
have ice cream ever again.
yeah. Or I'm always going to have to count my calories every day or something crazy like that. And I think that really held me back and made me not want to, just like, ooh, So like I said, I used to self-sabotage because of that. I think that's true for a lot of people. But the truth of the matter is, when you're doing it one step at a time and you're educating yourself and you're actually changing habits, getting more in touch with the messages that your body is giving you, because that's a big thing too. A lot of us have kind of lost touch with, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I anxious? Do I need to sit down? Do I need, what is my body telling me right now? So anyway, we're just taking it one step at a time and tuning into a lot of different things regarding our health. That's what creates sustainable changes that last. And I mean, it seems effortless. I mean, really, for me, when I finally found the right system and the right support, the my excess weight and all the other problems I was having, they just diminished, and it didn't seem like I was doing anything.
Wow.
And then to maintain it, it doesn't seem like I'm putting forth any effort. I mean, not zero effort. I have to be mindful of what I'm eating and all that kind of thing, but it's not an effort. And, I'm not like struggling or straining or anything like that. So, and that's true for a lot of people who find that they've got sustainable health goals reached.
Mindful. It's a beautiful word.
Mm, yeah.
Any final tips? Anything that you would like to leave us with as we begin to wrap up?
Hmm. This is something that not the first time I'm sure people have heard this, but make a list before you go grocery shopping,
Mhm.
and shop the perimeter of the grocery store, as they say. Usually, those center aisles are where all the packaged and processed things are.
Right.
But really, just take it one step at a time and try to incorporate whole foods, um, as opposed to unprocessed foods. If you need to do a little bit of, planning out what's going to happen this week, like on the weekend when you're going grocery shopping, think about, what are my meals going to be? I mean, especially if you're cooking for the family, what is dinner going to be on these nights? So you're not stuck in that, crisis mode, and then you're in the grocery store buying frozen pizza for the family or something like that.
Right.
Fast, cheap, and easy.
Yeah. So I love those
Yeah.
two. Make your list
Hmm.
and try to remember to take it with you, right? I find that writing it down is a huge help. Even if I do forget the list, just having written it down helps me remember
Hmm.
what was on the list. And then, yeah, shop that perimeter. That's something that I've been doing for many, many years. Um, wow, you've given us so much great information. if people want to get in touch with you, how do they reach you?
It's fairly simple. I don't know. I didn't put anything in the chat, but Julianne Wutke healthcoaching.com. And I guess on the show notes or in your LinkedIn profile, it probably has a lot of that, info right there. But they can definitely get in touch with you. My practice is designed to be remote, which I'm sure yours is as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the cool thing when people
Yeah.
aren't really in person as much as they were. That most of my clients, all of my clients really, are either phone or video chat. And if people are not sure what to do and where to go next, they can just have a free conversation with me by getting on my calendar, and hopefully we can get that information in the show notes afterwards for the recorded version. But
Yes, we can.
JulianneWutke.com. Yeah, go ahead.
We'll definitely put your web address in the comment section, and I believe you have some free resources for available on your website as well.
Yes, I have basically a anti-aging. I don't like that phrase. I need to change that. Aging gracefully. That's actually right when you go to the landing page of my website, it kind of pops up. So that's something that's people can basically download immediately, from the website, which a lot of people have and they find pretty useful. And on request, if someone has got a specific, I've got a lot of different blog posts that you can just browse and read, and that's great. There's information on different programs. I've got long programs, short programs. Um, if somebody were to email me and say that they are wanting to know more on any topic, whether it's insulin resistance or stress management or whatever it is, I've got a whole library of white papers. And by that, I mean simple, what it is and what you can do about it, actionable, tips on so many different topics. So if somebody wants to just reach out to me via email and let me know what their interest is, I can absolutely send them those PDFs.
Excellent, excellent. So in closing, I want to thank you again for joining us today, because
Yeah.
again, as someone who works with people who have chronic health conditions, one of the foundations to getting your health back is nutrition. However, I know a lot about nutrition because of my upbringing and because of my own healing journey, but I'm not a health coach like you are. I don't work strictly with nutrition. And so anyone that can provide more information to my clients for that is of value to me. And because it is one of the keys to good
Mm-hmm.
health. And
Mm-hmm.
literally, stress, and then stress causes you to eat poorly because you're busy. And just like I said, when I was commuting to New York and I had a 13-hour day and was eating. So first it was the stress that led to the poor eating habits. And then,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of other things as well, but that certainly contributed to the breakdown of my health. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for all of this great information that you've provided to us today on nutrition.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
Great. Okay, well, you and I will talk again soon. And thanks to everyone who attended, and keep an eye out for more great videos. Bye now.